Oh, baby, that coffee is good. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? My back's a little racked. I was sleeping like a little baby last night. And, well, you know, we'll see if it loosens up going over a little bit of the news with the Patriots. But I don't know what it was about last night, but I had a damn good time doing Dark MAGA. I don't know if it was because we didn't, you know, we went over the news, but we also talked about a little bit of what I did in life with the special effects and kind of just have a natural conversation in the chat. I don't know. It was intimate. It was spicy. It was fun. But if you're available to get into the Rumble Premium, it is a different show, folks. It is more intimate. There's less people in there. There's one chat, and you get your questions answered. You get highlighted more. I don't know. It's just a different setting, and I hope all of those that were there last night really enjoy the premium membership content only. I do think it's different, and I think it's a little bit more fun, in my opinion. But that's nothing against what we do here on the normal Bald Brad Show. There is an update to the tier system. I've deleted the 99-cent option. Now, if you're over at YouTube, you probably have to go back into the membership tab and see if you would like to rejoin at a different rate. So you probably lost your badge if you're on the Bald Brad Army tier, or until your payment runs out, like you have it till however long. But there is new tiers now. Don't feel like you have to, but it's there for you. They have this option where it says like the popular option that you should be doing. So I just click that, but don't feel like you have to, but everything is there for you to join up if you would like. So would love for your help, would love for your support, but totally get it if it's out of your range, it's out of your ballpark. Totally understand that. I even add some crazy tiers in there. I don't think anybody will click on them, but they're there for if you would like. So Danielle's asking, because she was there last night with us, did you go running? I did go running yesterday, yeah. But I'm pretty overweight right now. A little bit about me is I am overweight for my height. I'm about 5'9", 5'10" on a good day. But I am overweight for what I am, so I think that's putting a little bit more. I'm basically carrying around 30 more pounds than what I'm supposed to. And if anybody knows long distance running, that's a lot of weight to be carrying. If you look at me, I don't look 200 something pounds. I think I'm 210 right now, but because I look good, I look proportional, but I'm overweight for what I am. All right, well, enough of that. We don't need to talk about my weight and my problems, huh? Is everybody grabbing their belly fat right now, you weirdos? Okay, here we go. All right, enough of that. Enough of that. We have Trump scoring major victory. Everybody already knows this right now. But Trump scores a major victory as Vance helps push big, beautiful bill through the Senate. President Donald Trump scored a major legislative victory on Tuesday with the GOP-led Senate narrowly passing the one big, beautiful bill. JD kept it alive, the prospect of Congress getting the entire or the centerpiece measure on his desk by Independence Day. We will see. I believe the House will be looking at it today and tomorrow. What do we got here? Wednesday. So I don't know if this thing is going to be done by Independence Day, folks. The 800-page bill, which aims to fulfill many of Trump's spending and tax goals for a second term, which is huge, by the way, triumphed in a 51-50 vote after a marathon vote-a-rama session on amendments and intense deliberation between members, during which leaderships managed to win over just enough Republicans to get the measure over, the finish line. Now, because the bill is making its way through Congress through the budget reconciliation process, the Senate was able to bypass the 60-vote filibuster and pass the measure with only a simple majority. Tom Tillis, who raised concerns about Medicaid cuts, and Senator Rand Paul and Susan Collins voted against the bill with Democrats and independents. Vance broke basically the tie. Now, what's interesting is he's concerned about Medicaid, but one of the issues with Medicaid is there's a lot of people on it that are basically siphoning from the system and basically being lazy. Now, that's not everybody. Whenever you talk about a situation, they think that you're talking about everybody, but you have to talk sometimes in generalities to just have a conversation in the first place. And then I suppose from there you can go down into the specifics. But there's a lot of men, and I'm talking about specifically about men, that are of age, that are able-bodied, and are capable of working, and they don't do it. So we're not talking about these people that are on disability or not able to work. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about getting people off Medicaid that shouldn't be on it in the first place. And because people want to sit on their couch all day and do nothing, which is very easy to do, they're taking the benefits of that, which they shouldn't be. GOP leaders in the House and Senate have been racing to get the bill to Trump by his stated deadline, July 4th. Now, here's the problem, though, that not a lot of people are talking about. This very well might not pass the House. The reason for that is usually you have an indicator of what happens in one of the two. Usually kind of see what happens in the Senate, and it kind of gives you a glimpse into what happens in the House of Representatives. And let me explain this to you in a different way. Many of you know that I'm a part of the Screen Actors Guild for acting. The Screen Actors Guild holds the SAG Awards before you hold the Oscars, right? You have the SAG Awards, you have the Golden Globes, and then you end up having the Oscars at the end. Well, the SAG Awards, because a lot of the SAG actors are also in the Oscars, or should I say the Oscars, the Academy's also in SAG, that you kind of get a hint in terms of what the Oscars is going to look like and who's going to probably win by looking at the SAG Awards. In the same way here, you could do the same thing kind of with the Senate. It's not always going to be a perfect lineup. But here's the problem is many thought that it wasn't going to be this close in the Senate itself. Now, the Senate has a wider margin in terms of victory than the House does. The problem with the House of Representatives right now is the margin of victory is a lot slimmer than the Senate. So this could lead to major issues when it goes to the House. And I think it's going to. I could be wrong. But this sucker might not get passed, which is going to be pretty interesting. Hey, what's going on? I am the light. It's good to see you. We have here boosting funds for border security and the military, cutting red tape for American energy production, and raising the debt ceiling by trillions of dollars. Republicans, the one big beautiful bill, perhaps the greatest and most important of its kind in history, gives the largest tax cuts and border security ever. So these are two big things I wanted. The border security also allows us to get that payment, the border wall, doubling the border security budget by, I think, twice. This is what we wanted all the way back in 2016. So a lot of people are wondering, well, why is it so much money? We were asking for this a long time ago, but because you guys didn't want to build a border wall back when, well, now it's going to cost us even more money now because we're, almost a decade into the future and things are just normally more expensive. Eric Birch over here with the $5. Good morning, Patriot family. Want to send a huge thank you to Cat Mom with her very generous donation for our house fire. Many hugs. If anyone wants to donate, you can send it over to his address over there to help Eric out. Eric did have a bad house fire. And if you are able to support him, head over to Rumble. And his information's over there. Matter of fact, I will pin this message up at the top so you can see the pin message for Eric over there. Eric, I don't want to blast that all over. Just I want people to, those that want to donate will go over to Rumble to check that out. I don't want to blast your info like that on the internet for safety reasons. All righty. So that largest tax cuts, I mean, when people go, oh, well, I do this as a living. I was a tax accountant. I was actually a tax accountant longer than I was assurance and advisory accountant. And what I can say is Donald Trump's original tax cuts saved you guys about 3%. This isn't like up for a debate. This isn't like, oh, well, it might have, oh, he's biased. No, it saves you money. That is why everybody's talking about it, that you're going to be effed if this doesn't get through. You're going to end up paying probably a few $1,000s. I'd say $3,000 to $4,000 in that range. More in taxes than you would if it doesn't get passed. So we'll see, but let's hope it does. Jobs by millions. You get the military and vets increases and so much more. The failure to pass means a whopping 68% tax increase. I'm not so sure how they came up with that number, to be honest. I wouldn't take this number as being whole truth, but you would get a tax increase for sure. Remember, your child tax credit would revert back. Right now, I think you get $1,000, $2,000. Can't remember. That would revert back. I believe your standardized deductions revert back. So if you remember, Donald Trump took that personalized exemption and rolled that into your standard deduction. You get a lot of the credits that would roll back. The brackets, I believe, themselves would roll back as well. Just a lot of stuff that you personally don't want. This is good for both Democrats and Republicans. As I've mentioned, I don't remember ever. And I still ask this day when I go grab lunch or dinner with my old buddies that are still accountants over there in the tax field. I still ask them because they're all Republicans. I say, do you guys ever still have any Democrats coming in asking for to pay more in taxes? Nope. So it's weird how Democrats will vote for higher taxes, but boy, oh boy, do they hate when that money leaves their account to pay for taxes. They all turn very conservative when you're inside the office during tax season. It's the most fascinating thing you'll ever watch. At no point have I ever seen it or even heard of it where a Democrat goes into somebody's office during tax season and says, you know what? I don't want any deductions. I don't want to take any credits. I want to make sure that I have the highest possible taxable income, Brad, that you could possibly give me because I voted for higher taxes and I want to make sure that I owe as much as I possibly can to the federal government. I do not want you to lower my taxable income. Matter of fact, jack that sucker up as high as you can. It doesn't exist. They all turn conservative Republican the moment they step into a tax firm. It's the wildest thing in your life. However, there will likely be a quick resolution. Mike Johnson said last week that he would honor the customary 72 hours to allow members 3 days to review the text of the legislation. Now, I believe most of the House has seen this legislation, and I think the 72 hours, sure, fine, but nothing has really changed from what they've already seen. He also conceded that it is possible that the bill's timeline may slide past July 4th. Seems like that might be the case. So that's really it. That's all I have there. People are complaining that it's increasing the national debt. Absolutely, it does. But it's funny how they're complaining about that it's increasing the national debt, but they don't ever complain about when Donald Trump wasn't president and they did this multiple times under Joey. So I don't like it. But again, these are things that have to do with national security and making sure things are cheaper for the American citizen. That I'm for. But, you know, they don't. The moment, like when I hear people don't want to talk about the entitlement programs and cutting those, I don't want to even have a conversation with you personally. It's the two biggest budget items, right? Let me see if I can pull up the graph again. Government budget chart. The line items for the government is just insane. And remember that Social Security is our number one line item, and then it goes. Then it goes the other social. Let me pull it up for you guys. I want to see if I can find a good chart, like an actually updated one. Yeah, that's not even. Yeah, we can use this one, but it's not a great one. So here's Medicaid is 10% of the budget. So this is as of 2023. Social Security is 22%. So right here, you have 32% already. And then you have, where is it at? Medicare, which is 14%. So right here, 24, you have 44% of the budget is just these social programs. Almost 50% of your budget is social programs. And by the way, the net interest is right here. So if you notice, defense is 13, your interest is creeping up towards your defense. So I just want to point out, because this is one of the biggest misconceptions out there. When I teach personal finance, I always do the question whenever I get to the tax subject. I say, what is the number one thing we spend our money on? I would say probably 95% of the time, easy. It's actually higher than that, but I've polled over 1,000 people, I think, on this, and I think I can count on one hand the amount of people that actually got the answer right. Almost everybody picks defense as our number one thing that we spend our money on, which is not even close to being true. As you could see, this is not even close. I don't care what graph or pie chart you look at. You're not going to see defense. Defense is like number 3 or 4. Now, what's going to happen is, because our debt is so high and we have to pay interest on that debt, that red graph is going to exceed defense spending very shortly. So it's going to go Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest, and then defense. And sooner or later, based on if we keep going with this trajectory, your net interest is going to exceed Medicare and Medicaid to be the second most greater line item than anything else. So what I'm saying is anybody that has done business or finance or accounting knows, I hate to tell you folks, you're going to have to look at Medicaid, Social Security, Medicare. At some point, whether you like it or not, you're going to have to cut it. I don't care what you say. There's no way around it. And nobody wants to address it. Nobody wants to bring it up because it's icky. It's gross. It's yucky. So what you have here is Social Security at 36%. This is the entitlement programs right here for Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. So yeah, you're going to have to touch it. Because you're going to go after the 5%, 7%? Sure, maybe a little bit. Maybe. But you got to go after these big boys. It's not really working out well. Not at all. Other countries are in debt because they help their citizens. We are because we make sure billionaires keep extra. I don't know what it is with people complaining about billionaires and millionaires. They're the ones that are creating all the jobs. It blows my mind. like, I'm not a billionaire nor a millionaire, and I could care less if a millionaire and billionaire is making money. Good for them. I'm making money. I got no problems. I work multiple jobs, but I ain't hurting. You know? And you want to know why I'm not hurting? Because I'm frugal. Because I follow Dave Ramsey. I don't spend more than I make. I don't act like the government. I don't buy a new car. I don't have a new car. I have used. I don't have any debt. I don't use a credit card. I use cash for everything. And guess what? I don't buy a lot of stuff. Now, we don't need to go down that road again because I've already done it, but it's not oh, look at Brad and what he does. I live like no one else to hopefully in the future live like no one else. And that's a great term to live by, or at least phrase to live by. You live like no one else, meaning you live frugally. You don't buy a lot of stupid stuff, expensive stuff. You don't finance a damn thing. And you save. You work your ass off so that you can live like no one else in the future. So there's that for you with the budget and everything like that. But you're going to have to touch it. In our lifetimes, you're going to have to touch it. And I don't care what happens. You're going to have to little pokey with the sticky. People don't like when you talk about that, though, because you're touching their Social Security. Well, I don't know. Look, I don't even want for my money to be taken out forcibly and given into Social Security. You don't have an option to opt out. I pay in the Social Security. 100% guaranteed. I'm saying that specifically because some of you know what I do as a career. I pay in the Social Security. I don't want to. I would rather take that money and invest it myself, because I can get a lot more money out of that than I ever would out of Social Security. Not to mention if you die or if something were to happen to you or the paperwork doesn't work out right. What do? They just take your money, folks. They just take your money. Speaking of somebody taking the money, let me make sure this shows up okay over here. Got to zoom out for those on TikTok. There we go. Paramount, CBS, oh baby, winning, winning. Now, I think this goes a lot deeper than what meets the eye here, but CBS and Paramount forced to pay an 8-figure check for change editorial policy and settlement with Donald Trump. Here we go, folks. Oh, baby, the money's rolling out for Trump. Oh, boy, here we go. Paramount Global and CBS agreed on Tuesday to pay President Donald Trump a sum that could reach north of $30 million to settle the president's election interference lawsuit against the network. You think they just want to make this go away, or do you think something nefarious was going on? You think something weird was going on? I think so. Oh boy, do I. Trump will receive $16 million up front, cold hard cash. Give me the Benjamins. This will cover legal fees, costs of the case, and contributions to his future presidential library or charitable causes to be determined at Trump's discretion. Oh, baby. Now they're funding his presidential library. The greatest library that's ever existed. I want to go. Where do you think he's going to build his presidential library? Does anybody know? Because usually they kind of build it where they grew up or where they're at, right? But the way New York treated him, F that. Don't build that in New York. Florida is what I'm guessing. I think it's going to be in Florida, but we'll see. I think Florida is a really good pick. I will make a special trip out there to check out his presidential library. I go back to this. I'm still waiting for Joey's presidential library. There's a few things I want to see and take selfies with, and I think all of you are in agreement with this. One of them is the main event for me. Yes, it is. It is Joe Biden's teleprompter. I would love to meet it. I would love to shake its pull, because that teleprompter is one of the greatest assets in American history. That teleprompter went undefeated for 4 years. Joe Biden's teleprompter whooped his tushy for 4 years straight and never tired out. Joey could never figure out the movement. Joey could never figure out the punches and the pulls. Never. Not in 4 years. I would love to meet it, maybe offer a sacrificial offering to it and say, thank you, sir. You were one of the greatest services this country's ever seen, and you deserve the best retirement ever. Now, that's number one. And yes, I would travel great distances to see that teleprompter. The other one is Karine Jean-Pierre's notebook. Now, this one's really fun because we all remember the notebook, the binder, that allegedly had answers to people's questions, but after seeing it for a couple years, I don't think there was one in there. Not a single answer to somebody's question. Now, this one's really fun for the kids, maybe for the wives and a couple of the soy boy men. You want to see if you can lift it. Okay, this is a really fun community activity that you'll be able to do in the library. Can you lift Karine Jean-Pierre's binder? Now, I recommend some recommendations when you stand in line. Get nimble, start stretching a little bit, but what you want to do is you want to start with the legs. You want to definitely not lift with the back. You're going to pull it. You got to lift with the legs and get that binder up. It's so heavy. So that's the other one I want to take a selfie with. I want to try to lift it. We'll see what I can do. No promises. The sucker's heavy. And then number 3, this one's new. We might not be able to get our hands on it. Might be behind glass because it's just as famous as the binder, is Joe Biden's auto pen. Now, I'm hearing on selective days it's going to be actually signing stuff for you. You know, Joe ain't going to be there signing it, but it's going to be signing hats, diapers, baby wipes, the whole gambit. It's going to be signing it all for you with the auto pen. It's going to be remarkable. So that's going to be in Joey's presidential library. Make sure you're lining up for that one. Tickets go on sale probably in a couple years. All righty. So he's going to receive $16 million up front for whatever he wants. There's an anticipation that there will be another allocation in the mid 8-figure set, aside for advertisements, public service, I can't believe this, public service announcements, or other similar transmissions in support of conservative causes by the network in the future. Yeah. We'll use those during the midterms. Thank you. There's so much winning happening. It's ridiculous. I get all giddy like a schoolgirl. With these considerations, CBS would pay well in excess of $15 million. ABC paid Trump to settle a defamation lawsuit last year. Guy's making so much money doing nothing. The guy's just talking and he's killing it. Current Paramount management disputes the additional allocation. Oh, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, he's already getting a few million out of it anyways. Sources close to the situation told Fox News Digital that CBS has agreed to update its editorial standards to install a mandatory new rule. Going forward, the network will promptly release full, unedited transcripts of future presidential candidate interviews. People involved in the settlement talks have referred to this as the Trump rule. Oh, as they should. But here's the thing. They already interfered with the election twice. This is really going with Kamala Harris's stuff, how she just had some brutal interviews. Remember, this is who the Democrats wanted. This lady that couldn't answer any questions. By the way, she couldn't even budget her own campaign correctly. They're in a deficit. Her campaign is in a deficit. And they were begging people, like, can you donate to the Democrat Party to help us pay for our lies? We don't have any problems with money, do we, guys? Yeah, Republicans don't have any problems with money. It's weird how that works out, huh? Yeah. But no, she was going to lead the country. She was going to fix the border. She was the border czar. She couldn't fix anything. Unbelievable. I love it. I love it. So big win for Donald Trump. Big win for us with the big, beautiful bill passing the Senate. And not so much, though, for illegal immigration, though. We got some problems with that. Now, you're going to think this article is something we've gone over before. Not this specific one, but we've gone over this type of lending to illegal immigrants before. So a mortgage lending company is marketing its loans to illegal aliens across the country, promising to empower non-citizens as it profits from the fallout of Americans' borders crisis. You might think, well, what's the problem that people are lending money to illegal aliens? Like, that's not a big deal. How would that affect me? Well, because of supply and demand, that you're competing with somebody that should never be able to compete against in the first place, and they're getting probably a better deal than you are. So while you get like an 8% interest, they might get like a 3 or 4% interest, which outcompetes you. You just lost that bidding battle, and well, now you just been ejected from that opportunity. You have this Pennsylvania-based company offer. So this affects you, Jeff. Here you go, Jeff. Jeff lives in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania-based company offers loans across the continental United States and instructs illegal aliens on how they can obtain mortgages by leveraging a financial loophole. The company outlined its plan to empower non-citizens through individual taxpayer identification numbers, ITINs, which illegal aliens can obtain from the IRS. I've seen these numbers. It's almost like a social security number. This is something they will hand you when the illegal immigrants do themselves pay taxes. I've done taxes through VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Programs. I have actually done taxes for illegal aliens many, many times. I volunteered for that service for 5 years straight, 4 years straight. It's a great way to give back to the community. I used to volunteer a lot when I was in college. Just had a lot more time back then. But ITINs were created to allow non-citizens to comply with tax law and were never intended to be used as an identification for lending. Well, not anymore. ITIN loans serve as a lifeline for a specific demographic, immigrant home buyers who lack a social security number. This includes non-resident aliens, undocumented immigrants, and some lawful residents. The company made its targeting of illegal aliens particularly clear in a different guide called Bridging the Gap for Undocumented Residents, which outlines how individual taxpayer identification numbers distributed by the IRS can be used by illegal aliens to obtain loans. So remember, there's only so much money to go out and also there's a lot of risk associated with that if you're risking sending this money to an illegal alien that could potentially be deported or might commit a crime or whatever it may be, go to prison because they have a high increase of committing crime, then that risk has to be passed on to somebody else as well over a distribution of many loans. So what I'm getting at is this is also causing you to pay a higher interest rate when you're trying to finance something. So isn't that just fun? But remember, none of this has any effect on you guys across the country. This only affects California, Arizona, and Texas. This doesn't affect Middle America. Oh, wait, it said Pennsylvania, didn't it? God, it sounds like your host for 4 years has been saying early on when this was all happening that it's going to affect you in some way, shape, or form. Do you remember 4.5 years ago, 4 years ago, when Joe Biden came in office that first week when he started removing Donald Trump's immigration enforcement plans, like Remain in Mexico, for example. And I said, yo, he's flying people into the interior of the United States. It's bad. And because it wasn't mainstream news yet, and I was showing you guys body cam footage of planes landing on tarmac, and I was saying, this is a problem for you. And I remember my own subscribers were saying, no, it's not going to be an issue. It's not going to make it all the way up here in Minnesota. You know, I'm in Alabama, or I'm up here in Ohio or Maine. It's not going to reach me. This isn't a big deal. For hand to God, for like 1.5 years, 2 years, I heard this from my own subscribers. And I kept pushing back. I said, no, it's going to affect you guys. You don't understand how big of a problem this is. The dude's flying these suckers everywhere. It's going to be a massive problem. This is before the busing even happened with Greg Abbott, Doug Ducey, and Ron DeSantis. This is way before that. This dude was flying them everywhere. This was during COVID, mind you. And here we are. Now they're in your communities. Now they're getting loans. They're out competing you guys for your homes. This is inflating home prices. This is inflating rent. And you got to love it because these idiots in New York City, for example, are going, well, we need rent freezes. Well, maybe you wouldn't need rent freezes if you didn't have so many illegal aliens out competing you for that same rent or competing with you for that same rent. The landlord is increasing the rent because there's somebody out there willing to pay for it. That's all it is. The guy goes online, he looks at the market to see what everybody else is charging, and guess what he does? He charges that for that rent because there's some dude out there that's willing to pay for it. That's all it is. But you want to freeze rent. Well, you gotta love this, right? One of the arguments I've heard for freezing rent. Well, we need to allow the people that serve in their community to live in their community. Did you know I've only ever held one job, and I've held a lot of jobs in my life, and it was a recent job. I've only held ever one job that I worked that I lived in my community for. Ever. Every job I've ever had was never in my community of which I lived. I always commuted. In some cases, I commuted freaking minimum an hour and a half to get to work. When I worked up in Burbank and I lived in Orange County, California, some days it took me 3 hours to get home from work every day. I never lived in my, it is such a stupid ass argument. Oh, well, you must live in the community of which you work and serve. Why? Why do you deserve to live there at a cheaper rate than everybody else because you have it harder? How do you know you have it harder? How do you know that person isn't working multiple jobs to live in that area? I always love this argument. Oh, well, we need Section 8 housing. We need affordable housing for people. There's affordable housing where I live. Why? Why does that? Because I make more money? I make more money because I fucking work more. I work 3 jobs. Yeah, you're right. I'm getting a little bit of a rant right now. Why is it that you get to live at a cheaper rate because you allegedly make less by not that much, by the way, but I work 3 jobs to make what I make and I bust my ass for it, but I don't get a cheaper rate? Why? So I'm working harder than that individual? Maybe. Why do you get to live in the same area as I do, but you get a cheaper rent than I do? How's that even fair at all? Oh, well, they're not making as much money. So go and work multiple jobs. Well, they have multiple kids. Well, don't have kids. And I don't have any kids. You think I'd be able to work 3 jobs if I had kids? You think I'd be able to work many jobs? I always love this argument. Well, I have kids. Yeah, that was your choosing. You deserve to get what you get when you have kids. And hopefully that's prosperity and happiness because you had children. But I chose not to have children because financially it's not the right move. It's not that hard. It's not that hard not to have children. Believe it or not, it really isn't. It's a pretty remarkable thing, actually. You have to actually try really hard to have children. God, it floors me how it's always some fucking excuse for somebody to explain why they're down in the dumps or they can't make it or something's going on or this thing's happening to them. Yeah, everything happens to everybody. Everybody goes through shit. Welcome to life. Yeah, life can be hard for everybody. Well, there's 2 options. You whine and complain about it so you stay down in the mud, or you can whine and complain about it and still work extremely hard to try to get out of it. And getting out of it ain't easy. If anybody ever been in deep mud, it ain't easy to get your boot out. I just love, I work so hard. I work so many hours. Yeah, I wake up at 4:30 to do the show. The moment I'm done doing the show during working hours, I immediately put on a suit, and I'm talking within 5 to 10 minutes, I'm out the door heading to work. I am already working within 20 minutes after doing that, 20, 30 minutes. I work till about 3 or 4 o'clock. I go straight from work to my other job, and sometimes I don't even get off till midnight, and then I wake up at 4:30 again. And that doesn't even include the other job that sometimes I do in between all that. And you got people, oh, well, it's so tough. It's so hard. I'll never forget that when I was doing my master's program at USC, it was during the Donald Trump, his first term. And people were complaining about how bad things were. Mind you, Obama was in office, but they're idiots. And I was telling my classmates, because it was an all-class discussion, because they were hysterically crying, and I'm not exaggerating that one bit. All of them were hysterically crying, sobbing, these women. You know when a child cries so hard that they can't talk? I counted 4 or 5 women that were doing that in class. It was the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life. And I was the only person, I admitted, I was like, I voted for Trump. I don't know why you guys are crying. Everything's going to be fine. Our country's being destroyed. I wish I still had the clip. I should have recorded the whole thing. It's recorded somewhere. And so they're saying, oh, well, this is tough for working families and people that have children. And I said, okay, so don't have children. Because they're like, well, how is somebody supposed to work multiple jobs? Because I was working multiple jobs and going to school full time. And by the way, taking care of my father that was ill, that was deathly ill, by the way. My father's not around anymore. So I was taking care of him full time, working multiple jobs, going to my master's program, and taking care of him full time. Well, you know, people have children. And you know what my response was to everybody? I said, how about you don't have children then? Isn't that something that should be kind of planned out? Isn't that kind of a big fucking deal that you're having a child? Do you know what I mean? Hello? That thing's going to be around forever. Like, what a stupid thing to say. Oh, well, I had a kid, so I'm going to complain. You planned for it, hopefully. Like, you select, it's like you selected. It's the same people. They do this with anything, which is really messed up to say because a person is not an object. It's not an asset. They say it with cars, too, when they buy a new car. Oh, well, I can't get out of the rut that I'm in because my car payment's $725 a month. Yeah, but didn't you go and make a point to travel to that dealership to buy that vehicle? Didn't you go? I love this here, but it should be affordable to have kids. It is affordable to have kids. If I had a kid right now, do you think I'd be able to afford it? Yes. Because I planned for it. We should be able to place a decent wage to support a family. Then go work for that decent wage. Nobody's stopping you from going and achieving a decent wage somewhere. I see there's always an excuse as to why somebody isn't able to do something. Brad, to be honest, as hard as it was to plan babies come anyway, that's an excuse, but it's no, there you go. But it's no excuse. You said it yourself. I worked through school and children and took care of her family. Yeah. But here, it's amazing. I plan to have kids at some point. Why hasn't it happened yet? Because I've planned for it. But I love this, how people say, well, you got to work a decent wage. Well, what's a decent wage? I always love this argument. Let's do this right now. We're going to do it right now. I'll fuck somebody up with this. I don't care. What's a decent wage? I love this argument. So the decent wage argument is that I deserve a living wage. That's the phrase that's always used. So I'm going to switch it. It's the same thing you're talking about, but this person wants a living wage. Living wage is predicated merely by the individual and it's purely subjective. Somebody's living wage is different than somebody else. For example, say I was going to employ somebody for the Bald Brad show here, which we've done before. And this person was right here, and I'm just going to make up a number just to make things really simple for everybody. This person on the right needed $1,000 a paycheck to have a livable wage. Then this other person only needed $200 a paycheck to have a livable wage. Both of them are willing to do the exact same work. And the person on the left that was $200 has a family. But that other person, they needed $1,000 as a single guy. It's subjective on how you run your life. And unfortunately, there's an entire industry called behavioral economics that surrounds this whole thing. People just don't like being called out for their crap and what they do. The decent wage is code for I want to work my bleep job part-time, but afford a house. Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. Exactly correct. Now, is that for everybody? No, I'm talking in general. I'm sure there's people out there that are getting screwed. I just hate excuses of, well, I deserve a living wage. Why? What are you doing to get to that wage? And by the way, if you're willing to work for whatever wage you're working at now, that means that you think that you are worth that said wage, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be working at that job, or you'd be actively looking for something that's going to pay you more. And I'll give you a prime example. I had a student one year that was going back and forth with me that was in my personal finance class. Gotta love of all classes. And a lot of times you get advice from parents and students regarding this. And I know we're going on a tangent here. You guys want to go over the news, but we'll make sure we get there. I promise. But she goes, oh, well, I'm looking for a waitressing job. I was like, that's great. I always encourage teenagers to get work if their parents allow it. I'm not their parent, so I'm not going to tell them what to do. But I always say it's great to have on your resume. It's always good to have customer service on your resume for when you go into college, and then when you get your career job, it's going to set you above everybody else because most people don't work nowadays because they're lazy. So she goes, well, I've been looking for a year. And like, I almost spit out my coffee when she said that. And I said, whoa, that doesn't make sense. Oh, they're just not hiring me. Something's wrong. And I say, my first go-to was, what are you asking for? And this was 5 years ago, I think she was asking for $18 for a waitressing job, an hour. And I looked at her, I said, I think that's your problem. And mind you, I'm being overly nice. I'm not going to be rude and beat somebody up. I'm being overly nice. And I go, well, that's your problem right there. I said, you need to ask for less. She goes, well, I don't think I should be asking for less. Like, she kind of got offended when I said that, because you're talking about somebody's worth. They think they're worth 18. And I said, look, I'm not trying to be rude. I really like you as a person, but the market is telling you that you're not worth $18. Maybe you are worth $18. Maybe the service that you provide is so good that you are truthfully worth $18. The market is saying otherwise. You're not worth $18, because if you were, you would have a job already. You need to lower that number by a lot. She goes, well, I'm just going to keep looking until I find some. I said, well, you're going to be looking for a long time, because the market is telling you that you're not worth $18 and you don't have any experience. If you're going to pay a premium for that type of service by the employer side, you're going to be paying for somebody that has a lot of experience in waitressing. So later on, it took her months and months, almost the entire school year, but she came back and she goes, oh, Mr. Roberts, guess what I found? I was like, oh, what'd you find? I knew what she found. I found a job. Cool. I go, how'd it work? What are they paying you? $10 an hour. I said, oh, so you lowered your number. She's like, yes. It's amazing how that works out. It's amazing. There you go. That's all it is. Now, people feel like I'm beating them up, but I'm not trying to, but I don't like the excuses. Somebody says in the chat, our GDP is tanking. The GDP is an indicator of our nation's economy. It's one indicator, so you don't want to use that as your whole indicator. It's the same way. It's always interesting. So let me go to this. Who is that? Miss Andrew. So I'm going to go to this really quick. You make a point, and it's a good point, but it's not the whole truth. And nothing but the truth, so help you God. So right here, our economy, right, the market, we'll say, is at the highest it's ever been. It's at almost 6,200. Now, this is not always a good indicator of how the economy is doing. But the GDP is also not exactly a great indicator of how the economy is doing. Now, what I will say about that is, just with any equation, most equations are multivariate equations, a multivariate analysis. And so with that, you have to take into account multiple variables that are going into all this. So let me see what the current GDP is. Because you say it's tanking. I don't know what you mean by tanking. We just shout stuff. It'd been nice if you put a number in there. But let's see here. The current nominal GDP of the United States in 2025 is estimated to be around 29.3 trillion based on projections from available data. More precise figures from the BEA reported the real GDP decreased at an annual rate of 0.5%. So it's nothing truthfully too crazy. So I don't know what you mean by it's tanking. Now, if you want to go to the real GDP, it's projected to be about 23.3 million, because there's nominal and there's real. But these figures are subjected to revision. So I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about that it's tanking, but maybe. I don't know. All right, let's get into some more news here. Enough of me rambling here. Enough of me kind of pissing people off. A lot of people left. As you can tell, I just don't like excuses. I really hate it. And by the way, sometimes there are reasonable excuses for people to make as to why they're not able to do something. Like, for example, if somebody's like disabled, or a veteran that's disabled or whatever, and they're not able to do certain work, like that's actually a reason as to why you're not able to kind of achieve a certain level. There's a lot of things hindering you, or a lot of variables that are hindering you from not making it. Like, I'm not saying it's a statement that I make that's applicable to everybody. There's some people that are dealt really terrible cards. It's how you deal with those cards that are handed to you that's going to see where you're at in life. There's a great book called Discriminations and the Disparities by Thomas Sowell. I highly recommend that you guys check that out. And what he does is he breaks down these ideas of you having these certain prerequisites that you would even need from basically almost birth to get into certain levels of life, or get to certain levels of life. If you are missing one of those prerequisites, which by the way wouldn't even be your fault, it automatically basically disqualifies you from getting to a certain level in life. That could be success, that could be salary, that could be job placement. I mean, that could be a myriad of opportunities that you can get to. And I'll give you the easy one, the one that's kind of a joke, would be height. So, and correlating that to an NBA position. If you were 4'5", and you can't really figure that out, by the way, or you can't fix that. Somewhat you can, right? They have surgeries and stuff, but it's not going to get you to NBA level. If you were 4'5", that's a prerequisite height to get into usually the NBA. You have to probably be tall to compete. Well, you don't have that prerequisite. So is somebody going to look at me straight in the face and tell me that a 4'5" person should be playing in the NBA? Is somebody really going to tell me, yeah, you know, they deserve it? Because I've been told by the left there's supposed to be diversity. As to why there is not a small person playing in the NBA, I would really love for somebody to explain that to me. I by the way, I don't even ever think there's ever been a dwarf to play in the NBA. I think that's really messed up for a community that really pushes this idea of inclusion and diversity. It's really weird how there's not a single small person in the NBA. I think that's pretty messed up. I think there should be. So California kills environment regulation, strangling home construction. Oh, well. What do we have here? California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a pair of bills Monday night, rolling back parts of a landmark environmental law to remove barriers to tackling the state's housing shortage. I love it when reality sets in. So good. When reality sets in and when bleep hits the fan, they all of a sudden go, oh, yeah, we should remove these. But I thought we're all about the environment. But what about all the birds? What about all the fishies in the ocean? What about the air that we breathe, Gavin? How could you? Just what we've been saying all along. So it is the regulations that are hindering building, huh? It's the issues of getting into this person. Muggsy Burgess was 5'3". You can name one guy. Jesus. How long has the NBA been around? By the way, I said 4'5", but 5'3" we'll go with. Wow, you named one person. I don't even know if that person actually really was in the NBA or if they played. One person. So let's see. How much of the population do little people make up? And is that population equally represented in the NBA? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think it is. Matter of fact, you probably had to Google that. Moose is just saying, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think he's the shortest that played. He's like, dude, you got to settle down. You're kicking my ass. I love you, Moose. I'm just teasing you. The California legislature, with bipartisan support, voted last week to exempt certain projects, such as some home high-density housing plans. Only some, though. Yeah, you got to treat everybody differently in the state of California. I guess it's Muggsy that played in the Hornets in the 90s. Well, there you go. See, nobody even knew who he was. The guy must have been a superstar, you guys. He was in Space Jam. From erroneous California Environmental Quality Act reviews and approvals, Newsom pushed the legislation forward, threatening to hold up the state's budget unless the CEQA rollbacks hit his desk. Today's bill is a game changer. Why? Why would it be a game changer? Are you telling me that your environmental protections and these regulations out there have been hindering the growth of housing, which is probably the reason why, or one of the many variables into why housing is so expensive in the state of California? Could that possibly be it's almost impossible to build something, whether it's a business or a house here in the state of California, Gavin, because of all the regulation and red tape that you have? You know those huge fires we had a while ago that like LA was on fire? It was the craziest end of the world scene you've ever seen. I live in California, Southern California, by the way. I saw it. I smelt it. Do you know those people still, they tested it? Remember how Karen Bass stood up there and goes, we're going to make sure that you don't have to deal with permits so that you can build your home and get on your property. That's a lie, by the way. They're still dealing with permits. Completely lied. I know you're not. None of you are shocked. I'm not shocked either that she was a politician. She was like, she lied when she was and wasn't she like mayor of Compton? I think it was when I saw her speak, something like that. She's a liar. So is Gavin Newsom. It's no shock. Remember how she also said when Donald Trump was there with her, we're gonna make sure everybody gets on their property tonight. Right? It's still like smoldering. Weren't able to get on their property. We're gonna make sure you get on your property within 168 hours, which is an entire week. Weren't able to get on their property in 168 hours. Just complete lies. Unbelievable. Newsom held a press conference Monday evening touting the bill is necessary to rescue the reputation of California's government and prove the state is capable of solving pressing problems. Okay. What year is it? Is it 2025? We're going to prove to you that we can figure this out. Yeah, sure. He said the same thing about homeless. He said the same thing about the high-speed rail. Yeah, come on. Come on. One piece of regulation for some housing projects is not going to fix the issue, bud. But, you know, hey, what? I'm not going to give this guy any tips. I don't want him in office. He sucks, and I live here. He sucks big time. Big time. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm trying to see if there's any breaking news right now for all of you, but it's good to see you. Hit that like button, smash that heart button if you're over at TikTok. If you're over at YouTube or Rumble, smash up that thumbs up. It greatly helps support the show. There's some other news I want to get into here, but I do need your help in supporting the show by giving it a thumbs up. Here's one that I wanted to show all of you. Chinese nationals arrested over plot to recruit American military personnel. Truthfully, this is happening a lot. I remember there was a couple guys, Chinese nationals that were apprehended in San Diego, California, just south of me here, for, I think they were either trying to sell intelligence or they're actively doing the same thing here. But this is happening all the time in our military. If you recall, somebody leaked the top intelligence, top secret stuff regarding the bombing in Iran. So it's happening quite often. It's terrible. And until you start throwing people in jail or you start doing, like, I think if you're starting to get out national intelligence that's top secret, I think you should have your life on the line. I really do. The question you should ask yourself if you're going to leak national top secret intelligence is, are you willing to give up your life for this? And I'm not talking give up your life in terms of, well, you're just going to prison. I'm talking about you're giving up your life. Is it worth that to you? Like these people here, if they're willing to do something against national security, I think there's only two options. You give up your life or you serve your life sentence in prison for this. Is it worth it to you to do this? And until you start using an example out of people, this doesn't mean anything. It's all about consequences. If people have no consequences, then nothing's going to be done. And you see that in the state of California. When you diminish the idea of consequences through like Prop 37? I can't remember this. Prop 47. I can't remember the prop where you were basically allowed to steal, in a nutshell, $950 worth of merchandise, and you get like a slap on the wrist, a misdemeanor. Well, what are you going to get more of? You're going to get more of that behavior because you're basically incentivizing it by saying, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. So people are going to push the limits and they're just going to commit more crime. So when you go lax on crime and whatever crime you're going lax on, you're going to get more of that crime. It's obvious. And by the way, everybody knows this because you could take it down to the individual. Do that with your kids. You all have kids in here. If you were lax on your kids, don't you think they would run all over you? But you don't put up with crap. You don't put up with everybody's going, China, China, China. Trump ran with Elon stressing how dire the deficit decrease was. Trump abandoned it because he's a fraud. Okay. Sure he did, Caleb. That's fine. 2 Chinese nationals were arrested for allegedly work of Chinese intelligence agency to recruit members of the United States military to betray America, the Justice Department announced. The Justice Department said on Tuesday that the FBI on June 27th had arrested 38-year-old Yance Chan, a Chinese national. Yance Chan, Chinese national who was legal permanent resident of Oregon, and 39-year-old Liren Ryan Lai, a Chinese national who entered the country on a tourist visa in April. Both were charged with operating within the United States as an agent of foreign government without notifying the Attorney General. Wow. The criminal complaint against them says that they were working on behalf of the Ministry of State Security, Communist China's primary foreign intelligence service. Specifically, they're accused of attempting to recruit members of the Navy to be assets assets for the Ministry of State Security. Wow. It's crazy. This case underscores the Chinese government's sustained and aggressive effort to infiltrate our military and undermine our national security from within. I am in full belief, by the way, that the Chinese government knows everything almost there is about our government. The amount of IP that they steal every year is to the tune of, I think, like $1 trillion a year or something like that. Some crazy number that they steal in terms of just intellectual property. Our stuff's been hacked, right? Their chips are in all our computers and our devices. I wouldn't be surprised if they have full access to everything. It would not shock me one bit. In January 2022, the pair facilitated the leaving of a backpack containing $10,000 from MSS in a locker at a recreational facility in Livermore, California. Of course, it's always in California, isn't it? It's amazing how much stuff gets back to the state. Why is it you don't ever hear about like Kansas? How come you don't ever hear about like North Dakota or South Dakota, in the news? It's always California. Have you guys noticed that? It's like California, New York. It's always these lefties areas where like these massive crimes are happening. Why don't you ever hear like, what's like a state like Connecticut? You know what I mean? Why don't you hear anything like Vermont? Why don't you hear nothing about them? It's always these lefty ran areas, man. Always. Unbelievable. So we got Mexico locals explain stunning impact of border security under Trump's policies. Kind of figured. Iran's feared militia toast after devastating losses. Expert warns of darker turn. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let's look at this piece. Alaska's oil reserve are America's national security shield. Well, didn't Biden have something to do with that? At first glance, the unrest in the Middle East, the conflict of Ukraine, and recent Supreme Court rulings might appear to have little in common, but the first two illustrate the way in which American energy dominance, which is a big deal, led by an abundant resource of the last frontier, can bolster our national security, while the court's ruling provides one way to accelerate development of our natural resources into an energy powerhouse. So just like you saw from Gavin Newsom, limiting housing or the capability of building housing easily by having all these regulations and these environmentally friendly regulations, it stunts growth when you hinder somebody from doing something. Just in the same way, if you had to run through mud in a marathon, you can do it, but it's going to be a B, man. It's going to be a tough time to run that marathon, and you're going to get tired out, and some people are going to give up, and they're not even going to bother doing it. That's the same thing that regulations do. So when you do that with the energy sector, you're stunting our growth as a nation. You're causing things to be more expensive. We have the technology to do things safe that are going to have a low impact on the environment. It's not that you're not going to have any impact. I'm not even so sure that's possible, but you're going to have some impact on it. And we can do it with the technology that we have. But because these Democrats and these lefties have their pigtails on so tight, both men and women, that they can't actually think correctly. The recent fluctuations in oil markets arising from Iran's oil. Sorry about that, you guys. I got a notification on TikTok. Oil markets arising from Israel's conflict in Iran demonstrate the twin failures of former President Joe Biden's foreign policy and his energy policy. By removing President Donald Trump's maximum pressure sanctions on the Iranian regime, Biden gifted, listen to this, Biden gifted the mullahs. He gifted them nearly $200 billion in oil revenue, which they have used to wreak havoc on the globe via their proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthi rebels in Yemen. I said for years that Biden was one of the leading sponsors of terrorism across the world. And this just doesn't go towards Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis. I think the cartels are terrorists as well. I mean, Donald Trump labeled them as such, but even before that, I always thought they were. Biden created multi-billion-dollar industries for people in the Southern Hemisphere, from drug trafficking to sex trafficking to human smuggling, the whole gamut, the whole bit. Biden created multi-billion-dollar industries. I mean, I always say this. You think Donald Trump's a businessman. Joe Biden is the greatest business person that's ever lived in human existence, by the way. And I'm not sugarcoating that one bit. And I really do believe that. Joe Biden is one of the greatest businessmen of all time. The guy created industries that nobody else thought would have been created. Should we talk about the fact that there's like millions of people that are in slavery today? And this guy helped, meaning Joe Biden, enable more slavery, human trafficking, and children to be sold off in the forced labor. I mean, it's nobody talks about it on the left, right? Because Donald Trump's such a terrible guy. Oh, he's so bad. He's trying to save me money by putting in tax cuts. Oh, like that one person that talked about how the debt was going up, right? Didn't complain about it with Joey, but the second Trump's in office, I'm a keyboard warrior. I'm gonna be writing what didn't Trump campaign on lower debt? Yeah, so did Joey. Yeah, so did every president. By the way, they have a point. It's not that they don't have a point. They do. I just find it hilarious that they never call it out on their own side, ever. And you can look through their social media. I'm sure if there was ever a fingerprint that you could look through, you won't find a damn comment in their life ever about some sort of Democrat increasing the deficit, or the debt, rather. We have here, the Biden administration had to rely upon Iran and other unsavory foreign regimes to keep supplying the world with oil, in large part because of its reckless actions to squelch energy development at home. Oh. From canceling leases on Alaska's coastal plain, an action ruled unlawful by a federal judge, to blocking access to areas required by federal law, the Biden administration took literally dozens of steps to hinder Alaskans' ability to develop our natural resources for American benefits. I remember when Trump did something with the people in Alaska for energy, they came out like these small villages, and they were so excited that Donald Trump did this because they're actually able to start working again. But you won't hear that, oh, Democrats so underprivileged, these people, these Alaskans, right? They'll probably call them like Eskimos because they're idiots. Oh, these Eskimos, they're so bad. They just want clean air. No, they want to work. They want to prosper too. The Biden administration's actions, or in any cases, inactions, affected not just policy in the Middle East, but the conflict in Ukraine as well. More development of American resources would have made Europe less dependent upon Russian natural gas. I always love pointing to this. Do you guys remember that famous clip where Trump was at the table, and I believe he's talking to Germany, if I have this correct, and Trump's like, you don't want to be buying natural gas from Russia. You definitely don't want to do that. And they all started laughing at him. And then years later, obviously things go south with Russia, go figure. And to the point where Europe was legitimately, did we just get hold on one second. I didn't end it. Hold on one second. That's weird. Un momento. We just got booted here. Make sure everything's up and running here. Give me 1 second, folks. I apologize. That is so weird. Oh, I got suspended again. It's so unbelievable, dude. I got suspended again for another week. For what? Misinformation again. Look, that's so fucking unbelievable. That's insane. Yeah, I got suspended again. Yeah, it literally says it. Violation, misinformation. It says, in a global community, it's natural for people to have different opinions, but we seek to operate on a shared set of facts and reality. Anybody in here want to just tell me what one lie I said? I'm literally reading from an article and commenting on things that have happened in the past. Misleading or false content that may cause significant harm to individuals or society, regardless of intent. Significant harm includes physical, psychological, or societal harm and property damage. But I haven't done any of that. You see they add in the psychological there, because psychological is physical to these nut jobs. So I'm going to appeal it. Does anybody want to take a guess if the appeal goes through or not? So by this point, I was literally only unsuspended for, it hasn't even been 24 hours yet. I was suspended for a week, and then I was unsuspended for probably 24 hours, and now I'm suspended for another week. Did you know there's like I'm gonna say this again, and I showed you the proof. There's legitimately people on TikTok right now calling for the assassination of the president of the United States, and they're still allowed to be on TikTok. Not even banned, by the way. I just want to point out, isn't that calling for? Isn't that literally? I'm going to read it again. It says here, we do not allow inaccurate, misleading, or false content that may cause significant harm to an individual society, regardless of its intent. Significant harm includes physical, psychological, or societal harm. I would say calling for the assassination of the sitting president of the United States is a violation against community guidelines, but they get to say whatever the flying fuck they want. I've been in debates where they've said crazy, false shit, just actually false shit. And by the way, some of you have been in there. For example, oh, gee, we don't actually pay down our debt. What? That's by the way, it's not even missing. That's just completely false. Interest is debt. You have to pay that, right? Debt. Because I was asked, well, what's your definition of debt? Something that you owe. Well, if you owe to pay off that interest, don't we pay off that interest? No, that's what they said. No. Then one of the nut jobs on the side goes, no, yeah, we do pay off interest. Yeah, correct. We pay off interest. Fucking idiots. All right. Well, it's just us now. It's just us patriots. All right, here we go. Life goes on. But do you guys understand my frustration that this whole thing that I do with the Bald Brad show has been nothing but an uphill climb? This is the mud that I'm talking about. That analogy, when I say that trying to create a conservative podcast on social media is what it feels like of running through mud, ankle to knee deep mud. And that you have to really persevere to go through. There's a reason why a lot of people start this type of thing and they completely end, because you are running through mud and there's always obstacles. But you know what? I talk about it and complain because you're the only people I have in my life to complain and talk to about it that would get it. But do you see me giving up? Do you see me going, oh, well, fucking woe me. Oh, look at TikTok. There's a reason why I haven't made it big, because TikTok and these freaking outlets are stopping me. No, I'm going to continue to go forward. Are they hindering my path and extending the length of which this show is going to pop off? Absolutely. But you know what? Fuck them. We're going to do it anyways. I always love how these Democrats go, oh, there's racism. There's systemic racism. You don't know what it's like because you're white privilege. So dumb. Stop making excuses, Brad. Give up already. Yeah, exactly. All right, so where are we at here? Make no mistake, energy resources are and remain a critical national security issue. The American oil embargo on Japan, which helped precipitate the country's attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, demonstrated the direct link between access to affordable energy and national security. That's why Democrats' policies and actions are sought to appease the environmental lobby harmed not just our economic growth, but America's global standing. Correct. I mean, completely just shooting ourselves in the foot here is really what we're doing. And Democrats will continue to do it with no regard. They don't, unless you turn into Gavin Newsom and then you realize, oh, well, I know the answer to how we can make affordable housing happen again. We should maybe remove all the regulations that we have so people can build, or not just that people can build, but incentivize them to build. A lot of people don't even want to bother. People want to do things that are easy. Case in point, what we were talking about earlier, the individual over there on TikTok said, well, that person just wants to work their shit job and be able to own an affordable house, right? They want to live like the Joneses. Y'all remember that phrase? Now it's, I want to, keeping up with the Kardashians. It used to be called way back when, keeping up with the Joneses. Well, that's what people want. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to live like the Kardashians, working as a busboy at fucking Denny's or something. Well, I deserve to drive a Lamborghini and live like the Kardashians. You don't. And it's been like that for all human history, but because we always want to play dumb here, and we always have to live in fantasy world, that we all think we deserve something that's greater than what maybe we actually deserve. Do you want to know what? I fucking don't deserve to live like the Kardashians. I don't. I don't deserve to live in a mansion. I don't deserve fucking anything. And by the way, if I wanted to live in a mansion or do all those things, then I would need to make the necessary steps in life to get there to be able to do that. And I am choosing not to. Now, what do you mean by that, Brad? What do you mean you're not choosing not? Like, what can you explain that to me? Absolutely, I can. If I was still in accounting, if I was still doing public accounting, I would be doing it for a decade, meaning I would probably be at either a manager level, director level, or partner, depending on the size of the firm. If I was any one of those three, I would be making over $150,000 plus a year easy. Easy. And because I'm a cheap ass, I would be saving. And by the way, if I wasn't with my wife, I'd be living out of a van. And if you think I'm fucking kidding about that, I'm not. I've actually joked about it. I've joked about trying to see if we can live out of a van to not even pay rent. You know I'm not kidding, by the way. I would legitimately probably be living out of a van if I was still a single dude today. I'd be living out of my car if I could. And I'm not I swear to God, I'm not kidding. I would save up and buy an extremely expensive house with cash or multiple houses. So I wouldn't even be spending $50,000 a year. I'm not kidding. I know people are like, oh, come on, man. You're being silly now. I'm not being silly at all. I'm really not. If you knew me, if you ask my friends, if you knew me, I am not fucking around. I am dead. I'm as serious as a heart attack. I am a cheap motherfucker. But that's how you would do it. But so that's the purpose of me bringing it up is I'm saying that I'm choosing not to be an accountant. I don't want to live that life. And I deserve whatever I get because of what I'm willing to do in terms of working for money. Yeah, in a van down by the river. I miss Chris Farley, man. Good guy. Good guy. Don't even know him, but good guy. All righty, let's see what we have else in the new. Oh, there's some stuff I wanted to show you guys. What am I doing? There's a Scott Jennings clip. We always got to do Scott. We always got to do Scott right. Where are we at here? Okay, let's go here. Boop, boop, boop. If you're not following me on TikTok, it'd be nice if you could. A lot of people are starting to point out, like Charlie Kirk. And I think it kind of started with getting more mainstream here because of what's going on in New York with that one dude that's running for mayor. But a lot of people are noticing that like kind of the Muslims are taking over. A lot of these foreign people are starting to take over our country. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. This is Savannah Hernandez. I want to make sure I show this clip to you guys about New York City signs $1 billion deal to give illegals free hotel rooms. Been talking about it for a while. Danielle says, Brad, why are you so cheap? It's just the way I was raised. My dad was cheap. My dad was a big cheap ass. Like, so when we would go to like theme parks or something, or like the Orange County Fair, we would never get like drinks. We would never get like, you know, you see people walking around with like the deep fried Oreos. We would never get anything like that. I remember my mom, and I love her to death, but she knows she did this. She wouldn't even get me and my sister like sugar cereal. We would have plain Cheerios in the house, but my mom would buy herself like Frosted Flakes. She really likes Lucky Charms and Frosted Flakes. And so she would buy herself that, but she would hide it. And so what me and my sister used to do, it's really fucking gross, is we would pour ourselves some plain Cheerios, and then we would take sugar with a spoon and we'd sprinkle it over our Cheerios. And if you know anything about that, well, all what happens to the sugar just sinks to the bottom of the bowl. And so you'd have to scoop at the bottom of the bowl to get the sugar and the Cheerios together. And you would just have this huge, thick layer, like just like a spoonful of sugar, eating your Cheerios just to get a little bit of a mix. So anyways, we weren't poor. We weren't a poor family. It's just we lived frugal. My parents were smart with their money. I got to give it to them. But that's probably why I end up being cheap, as I'm like my father. But and my mom says the same thing too. But and I wear it as a badge of honor. But what's also funny is, do you remember when like Kellogg's or like Post used to send you guys the samplers in the mail? Remember we used to get those on our doorstep? You used to get like the little box samplers of like the Lucky Charms. You get like the Frosted Flakes, the Tricks, and they'd be in those little boxes, and you get a little bit of a sampler to see which ones you like. Dude, me and my sister used to wait for those to come because we would snatch those up really quick because we never got cereal like that. So we'd snatch those up and we would eat them. Oh man, it was glorious. Yeah. I also used to take the old wheat, the muffins box that you can get. It's like blue and white. I actually know what it looks like. And it's the cheap, like 99-cent box to make blueberry muffins at the market. Well, to get a little bit of sugar, what we used to do, we used to pour it into a bowl and mix it. And we just pour water in it. And we used to eat it just right out of that, just the mixing of it. My mom's probably watching, just to let you know. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I'm cheap, but that's how I will always be. But it goes to a certain extent. Like, for example, let me explain. Because people have asked this to me, like especially students when I teach personal finance. They say, well, like, what do you even enjoy life? Yes. I just save up for everything. So for example, that cruise I went on where we took a week and a half off the show. I went on a week-long 7-day cruise. I saved up for it, but I worked hard for that. I saved up for a year for that cruise so that we could just buy it with cash. But like I go bust my ass after work to pay for that. It's not like it just was handed to me. Like we budget, we follow Dave Ramsey, we do the Every Dollar app. I believe we use a different one now, but like we do everything that's budgeted. So if we don't have the money for it, guess what we don't go do? We don't go do it. But usually we plan out everything that we do. So if we want to go do something, we just go do it because we saved up for it. That's all it is. And it helps when you have multiple jobs, meaning me, like, my wife makes good money, but mostly my side gigs are to help pay for the fun things that we do. So of course I go have fun. I just do it the wise way. I don't finance anything. I think it's silly. Financing something so stupid to me. I'm sorry, but it is. And you can't change my thinking on it, you guys. I know some of you try. But yes, there you go, Kreger. Putting your vacation on credit is horrible. Yes, putting anything on credit is horrible unless a lot of people give me shit for this because I follow Dave Ramsey, but we have a credit card. My personal credit card is not even activated, just a heads up. I have one, but it's not even activated. We have one because we get the percent cash back, but we use it as a debit card because it kind of makes more sense, right? If I can get a certain amount of percentage on my purchase back, I'm getting an automatic discount on almost any purchase that I'm doing. So wouldn't it make sense, especially for large purchases, for me to put it on the credit card to get that cash back? And then I have more cash back that I can use on my vacation, by the way, and just pay it off. I have the money sitting there, already saved up for it. So I'm just using it as a debit card, basically. So, but most people they shouldn't be doing credit cards because they're not good with money, unfortunately. And people feel like they're being attacked. But again, it's called behavioral economics, the stupid things people do with money. So here's Savannah Hernandez talking about this hotel. And here we go.
In front of the now closed Roosevelt Hotel, and if you guys remember this area, this was truly the epicenter of the illegal immigration crisis in New York since 2022. And this is the first time I reported in front of this area, and it hasn't been completely surrounded by illegal immigrants. Now, a lot of people are celebrating that these hotels are finally shut down, but the reality of the matter is that migrants are simply being moved into federally funded homeless shelters throughout New York at this point. Now, the city of New York just signed a $1 billion contract for emergency shelter services throughout New York. And as of January of this year, Adams himself stated that around...
The reason why I love looking at states cities like New York or just states is because they can't print money. States cannot print money. They can get federal assistance, but these same people that are complaining about rent and taxes and things being so expensive. $1 billion just on housing alone. That doesn't include the education fees, the lawyer fees, the rental assistance, whatever it is. It doesn't include all of that. They are paying billions of dollars for this, man.
51,000 illegal immigrants were still utilizing city shelter services. And the contract that they just signed was for the 86,000 people that are still experiencing homelessness in New York. And that includes, of course, New Yorkers and illegal immigrants. Now, something interesting that's going on as well. The Department of Homeless Services is actually instructing their employees not to cooperate with ICE at all. They're stating not to tell ICE or law enforcement officials the immigration status of anybody in the homeless shelter system. On top of that, they're stating that an ICE detainer is not even enough to allow access into homeless facilities throughout New York. So this is one of the ways that illegal immigrants are still being sheltered in a city. And just to recap as well, New York has already spent $7 billion on the illegal immigration crisis for free hotel rooms, free medical care, food, transportation. Let's not forget that 47,000 free plane tickets were given to illegal immigrants since 2022, so they could fly from New York City to anywhere in the United States of America that they wanted to. This is the exact same program that Jose Ibarra, the illegal that murdered Laken Riley, utilized to fly from New York City to Georgia to go and commit that horrific crime. So that's what's been going on in New York since 2022. Again, these shelter systems are being closed down, but the Department of Homeless Services still instructing their employees not to cooperate with ICE, and a $1 billion contract now signed to continue these emergency shelter services throughout New York City. So just an idea of what is going on the streets of New York.
It's crazy. But you know, people in New York, California, guys, they, again, their mind says they're cool with all that. They got like, when I say no problems with it, I mean they have zero problems with it, man. It is nuts. It is truly, truly nuts. Here's that Paramount one. Posted that yesterday. That's awesome. Trump getting a lot of money from Paramount. Look at this. Breaking. Paulo Mendez, who deleted a dad of 6, freed on bail the next day in California with DUI charges. It's ABC 7, so it's definitely LA. Here we go.
Grandkids walking his daughters down the aisles, but unfortunately his life was tragically taken from him.
The father of 6 was struck and killed last Friday. San Bernardino police say the driver, 42-year-old Paulo Cesar Mendez, was under the influence of narcotics at the time of the crash. He's now facing charges of manslaughter, DUI, and child abuse after a 9-year-old in his vehicle was ejected during the collision. Despite the serious charges, Mendez was able to post bail the next day.
I don't think it's fair that there could be a bail after you just killed someone, not, injure someone, but you killed my dad.
It's terrible. It is terrible. But it happens all the time in California. It happens everywhere, but definitely all the time in California. Pat says, I think Brad has a crush on Savannah. Absolutely, dude. Savannah's a freaking rocket, dude. I could say people are pretty. I'm not allowed to do that. I think we've got, and Pat, this is not directed towards you. This is directed towards a bigger thing. I think people nowadays, the way the culture has moved with the feminist movement, is that when you comment on, a girl being hot or she's sexy or she's pretty, people are taking it as like, I think a step further, which is not the intention. The intention is, oh, she's just a good looking girl. Like, she's hot. She's pretty. Like, yeah, I'd probably try to spit game at her if like I was single, but I'm not, you know what I mean? Or like flirt with her or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, girls are pretty. I mean, you see that there's a reason why guys always, they love watching Babes. There's a reason why Hooters was around, or, the Tilted Kill, like these places where the tits are out. I mean, that's how guys are, man. We love boobies. We love ass. We love pretty girls. Savannah's pretty and she's smart. So, no, you could crush. You just can't touch. You just can't touch. No touchy touchy. All jokes aside, though, we got more news here. Here's Marco Rubio doing the peace out, because USAID is done. It's fully done. I love this dude. Fucking Marco. Hey, you guys think Marco will run? You guys think Marco will run in 2028? I think so. He might have my vote, man. It would be weird for JD Vance not to run. I have to take Marco, I think. I know I got to hear more of their policies and their platforms, of course, but as of right now, I would pick Marco over JD any day. JD's great, but I just see Marco doing so much more than JD, and you know that's not exactly JD Vance's fault, right? He's a vice president. He kind of did what he was supposed to do. That was really all he's for the most part, is to break the tying vote in the Senate, and he did that. I mean, the guy's doing his job, and obviously to give wisdom to the president wherever needed, but he's kind of limited by his capacity of what he's able to do as vice president. But I just think Marco's doing such a great job. Here's what's the clip here on this? The Medicaid debate is a good one to have, and the CBO says there are 4.8 million able-bodied adults who choose not to work. Gee, doesn't it sound like what Brad's been venting about for the last couple days?
And the deficit are the two existential problems that are facing this nation. And if you don't address them, our children are going to pay, and you're going to set the country on.
It's always about our children's going to pay.
A cliff to oblivion. I mean, that was the argument of Republicans. Where has that gone?
Well, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. I think you can cut taxes or make the tax cuts permanent and add other tax cuts for working class Americans. I think you can do necessary welfare reform. I think you can invest in the southern border and border security, which this bill is doing. And then you can also pay attention to spending. Now, ultimately, of the federal budget right now, 21% of it is discretionary and the rest is just mandatory spending. So you got to tackle that down the road. This isn't a spending bill. It's a reconciliation bill, and it's largely a tax bill that makes the tax cuts permanent, adds tax cuts for working class Americans. On the Medicaid piece, though, there's obviously going to be a big debate about this. I mean, there are almost 5 million able-bodied people on Medicaid who simply choose not to work. They spend 6 hours a day.
Just no concept of reality. I just that's the part that bugs me in politics, is you're shaking your head like it doesn't exist, but it does. That's the part that bugs the shit out of me in politics. Like, there's anything that irks me, it's that. Like, the constant, I'm gonna negate reality and I'm gonna fit whatever's into my worldview that I want to pretend that it's like. That's the part that bugs me in politics. Most of it I find funny and comedic, but
Socializing and watching television, and if you can't get off grandma's couch and work, I don't want to pay for your welfare.
I don't know where you're getting those numbers. CBO says there are 5 million Americans who are sitting on their couch watching television and TV.
Regardless.
See what they do? See, it's very disingenuous. Everybody in that room knows what he's talking about when he utilizes an example of them being lazy. It was merely an analogy. And this is the part that always irks me, is that we act stupid all the time. Oh, the CBO report says that there's people sitting on their couch. Obviously, it doesn't say that there's people sitting on their couch. He was using it as an analogy, as a metaphor, to point to the fact that there's people that are able to work and they're not doing it, and they're choosing to do something else other than work. And the analogy that he utilized was them sitting on their couch, on their parents' basement, or whatever it may be, playing video games or doing something else other than actually working. That's what they're doing. But this is the part in politics that's stupid, and that's why you don't take any of these people on CNN seriously, because they know exactly what Scott's talking about, and they're pretending like they don't. And it's annoying as F. It is very, very annoying. Another thing that's annoying here is on TikTok, I was told that the gas prices aren't way down, but it's weird because everybody else is saying otherwise. I'm having both Republicans and conservatives, and everybody's telling me gas prices aren't down. That's weird.
It's pretty good news for millions of drivers expecting to hit the road for the 4th of July weekend.
It looks like gas prices are about to get cheaper.
Gas prices are currently the lowest that they've been since 2021.
They're the lowest since 2021.
Hitting a 4-year low.
This doesn't just apply locally. Trends are being seen nationwide,
including in Michigan, where it's about 42 cents cheaper to fill up than it was this time last year. Pennsylvania, Illinois, Nevada, a number of other states seeing significant drops.
Gas prices are much lower than we have seen in recent years.
$2.68 per gallon, or more than a dozen stations in Duval and St. Johns County.
The national average could fall below $3 as early as September.
This translates to Americans spending about $500 million less on gasoline this holiday weekend versus last.
Weird. Yeah, I was told that's not happening. Absolutely. I was told that's not happening. We have more Scott Jennings clips here for you, which is why I wanted to go to it. Let me kind of scroll up here for Scott. There we go. Okay, so we saw this one. Oh, wait, no, we didn't. This is Mamdani. This is the one I wanted to show you. Watch Dems squirm and trying to explain away Mamdani being a communist is pretty entertaining. Here we go.
Democratic Socialist elected as mayor of New York City.
No, you agree with Pete that he is a communist then?
He's not a
He's a socialist.
He said seize the means of production.
He's a socialist.
He is not a communist.
I'm not a socialist, but he calls himself.
He's using the language of the Bolsheviks, is he not?
He's not. He's a socialist, not a communist. Those
Seizing the means of production?
That's called socialism, not communism.
Use that in the USSR and Stone Dormer debaters. That's where you hear that stuff.
Everyone coming up next.
He's like leaning in his... By the way, both aren't good. No, hey, everything's okay, Scott. He's just a socialist. This is the wildest thing to me. Like, it's fine, Scott. No, he's not a communist. Everything's okay. He's just a socialist. Oh my God. Everything's cool, bud. Yeah. Oh God. That's where we're at. It's scary, man. Boy, it's scary. I hope I'm dead and gone before any of this unravels, because it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before this country crumbles. It's gone. I know you guys don't want to hear that. Like, I'm a pessimist. I'm not exactly an optimist. I try to be. But look, I look at everything in a holistic view. I don't see this country. I don't care who's president. We're fucked no matter what. This country is gone. And it's not just me that says that. I think if everybody opened up their eyes, this country is headed towards doom. It's headed towards doom. The freedoms and liberties that are enshrined in here, they might be on paper, but that will be ignored sooner or later. Trust me. But this country is doomed, and I hope that I get the last little bit of what we have here in this country in my lifetime. And whatever happens else, hey, I don't care. I'm dead and gone. That's what I hope. I don't want to deal with the shit that's coming. There's more here that I wanted to get to. Here we go. This guy. We showed this guy in Dark MAGA yesterday, but funny to hear Clinton-era Democrats argue against Medicaid work requirements. They're the ones that thought of it, by the way.
This bill is a political suicide note for the Republican Party. Last time they tried this, the Democrats won 41 House seats after Trump's first midterm. They'll exceed that this time. 489 days. They'll do better than 41 seats. This is absolute death knell for the House Republicans. Maybe Senate, too.
I should have started my remarks by thanking you, because it was President Bill Clinton in the 90s that thought of work requirements for Medicaid.
I just want to point out, I promise I'll play it, but I really have to point this out. Did you guys see? He went from watch his face in real time. Smiling, watch this. And boom. Look at that face. Boom. You guys see? Right when he realized that, oh shit, we did. You guys are the one that created it, right? Oh fuck. Oh shit. Oh what?
Days. They'll do better than 41 seats. This is absolute death knell for the House Republicans. Maybe Senate, too.
I should have started my remarks by thanking you, because it was President Bill Clinton in the 90s that thought of work requirements for Medicaid.
But two-thirds of people on Medicaid already work.
Which is all we're doing here.
They already do it. They already do it. We did it.
If you want to get up and go to work, you're going to get your Medicaid. And if you're an illegal alien, you're not going to get your Medicaid. Everybody else is going to be fine.
14 million
It's generational
people.
welfare reform built on your all's ideas. So I thank you. I sincerely thank you.
This bill is a...
2/3 already do. Okay, well then they shouldn't have any issues, right? Like, just don't. I really don't understand. Oh boy. Well, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, make sure you hit that like button. We're going a little bit longer today. Just a little bit, not too much longer, not too much, just a little taste, just a little see what's out here in the news. Sometimes no news is good news, especially what we've been dealing with the last few days. This is always nice to see Trump's border wall kind of working, border security. No run. Don't run into the interior of the country. Make sure you walk into the interior of the country. Don't worry. We're not going to chase you down like animals, but we'll let you walk in there. Yeah, that's good. That's great. Well, 3 minutes ago, Trump announces trade deal with Vietnam. There you go. Details to follow. So we'll kind of get that breaking news. Trump's border should have a bunch of hot chicks by it. Well, no, because then you'll keep flaunting them over here. If you want to get the hot Latinas and negotiate a deal with them, there you go. I'm not exactly against that. Get all the good-looking Mexicans coming across, you know what I mean? Or those from like Ecuador or Brazil, bring them over here. The good-looking ones, though, not the bad-looking ones. We only want the good-looking ones. We get to pick. We get to be picky. Picky icky. All right, I think we'll end it there. I think that's enough news for today. Let me just double check to make sure nothing's breaking before we get out of here. So I guess Diddy beats Rico, escapes most serious charges in sex trafficking case. So this is happening right now. Let's go to this real quick. Let's take a little peeky here.
Think of as applying to the mafia. They just overextended themselves.
Interesting. Stand by, okay, Josh. Mark Eiglarz joins our coverage too. And Mark, good morning to you. Criminal defense attorney yourself. You've been in and out inside these courtrooms for some time.
Transportation to engage
just your initial
in
reaction. There seems to be a bit of surprise that it came back this quickly and it came back this way. What do you think, Mark?
Well, yeah, we thought they'd take a little longer, and especially after the one juror was accused of not playing nicely with the others. Who ever thought he'd ever come together and unanimously agree to any verdict? But I think that some of the major problems which have been discussed all along were real for the jurors. You start with racketeering, typically for all of us, doesn't fit for a guy who's into lube and Astroglide. It's really reserved for Al Capone. And so people think of it that way. And in this case, I don't know if they really felt that he had a criminal enterprise. And I think that's what you're going to hear from the jurors. As it relates to the other two serious counts that he was acquitted of, this was always about consent or whether it was coercion. And there were numerous opportunities I think the jurors are going to find or found that they could have left if they really weren't into it. And yeah, there were times where maybe force was used, but we're not going to find that this was sex trafficking, which also has a different image, for most people when you think of sex trafficking. So it's not uncommon at all. They came to this verdict, and I think in spite of Dawn Hughes's testimony, the expert psychologist who testified, they just didn't believe in the trauma bond, and they found that these women who they weren't being trafficked.
We did not. Obviously, we're not in the courtroom. That video that was made public that was leaked from the hotel in Los Angeles, it's awful. It's 9 years ago, it's 2016, and she sued the hotel because of the leak, and that's how she was able to acquire that $10 million settlement. But
all right, so kind of looking at it. So here's kind of the final verdict. Let me get this off the screen. We don't need that anymore. We can go to this. All right, here's TMZ. Diddy skates on most serious charges. Jury only convicts him of 2 counts. So the final verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs federal criminal trial is in, and it's not guilty on 3 of the 5 counts. They acquitted him of racketeering, sex trafficking of Casey, and sex trafficking of Jane. He's only been convicted of 3 and 5. He's only been convicted on counts, 3 and 5, okay, which are both transportation for purpose of prostitution, aka Mann Act. He faces a maximum of sentence of 10 years for each of those counts. So the most he's going to get is 20 years, which is still a long time. I mean, 10 years is a long time. It's kind of pretty wild, all the stuff that came out regarding this case. And I guess, like none of it really, which is pretty crazy. So they deliberated for 2 full days. I don't know. Diddy is just a scapegoat. Maybe. But it's weird though, right? I mean, you kind of go back to the Epstein stuff. We're being told by the media. We're also being told by some government officials. Now, who are they? I don't remember. But there's always news coming out like, oh, the Epstein stuff is crazy. Like, you wouldn't believe the celebrities that are all in this, right? Maybe these are just coming up by conspiracy theorists, I guess. I don't know. Oh, well, Diddy, man, he's part of this huge operation, a global operation of all this stuff. But it's like, then where are all the people at? Like for him, right? There was 2 people that came up, right? They said Casey and Jane. But where are all the other people? I mean, if this guy's been doing this for years, decades maybe, like where is everybody? And it's the same thing with Epstein. I only know of like 1 or 2 people that have come out. If this is happening, if this was a global thing, celebrities were banging these young chicks left and right, like, which is terrible. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but where is everybody here? It's the oddest, dude. It's like a weird thing, right? I mean, usually if there's a lot of crime and people are involved, you'd have a lot of people that were involved in that crime kind of come forward and say, yeah, I was a part of this. Like, hey, this is what's going on. Maybe their lives are at risk. I don't know. Everything's just weird. It's all weird. I don't know. All of it's weird. But, alrighty. Well, that's going to be the show for today. Remember, if you could look through, if you guys were members previously for the base tier, if you could look through the memberships again and decide which one you would like, if you would like to, you could go that route. If you want to stay at 99 cents in terms, you still could. You can go to our website, baldbrad.com. I just want to point that out. If you're like, hey, you know what? I want to still support you, but I don't want to do the $2.99 tier or whatever. Remember, you could do your custom amount here. You could just put in $1 like that and do a monthly, go down the monthly donation on my website. So links in the description. But if you still wanted to do your $1 or your 99 cents, and by the way, if you go this route, I'd actually be getting more from you than I would from YouTube still, if you were to go this route with your $1. So if you still want to do that, that option's still there. If you're still like, I don't think you're worth more than $1. By the way, I'm not trying to be, I wouldn't take that as offense. I'm just saying, some people just think, the value that you're providing me is not worth more than $1 a month. You could do that through my website and I actually get more money doing it this route than I did even on YouTube. So it'd be greatly appreciated. And by the way, should I be doing a Cash App? Do you guys think? Is that even a thing? Should I do that? I see people doing Cash App. It's like, that's just more convenient for people. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that, but it's not, I don't go around asking for money every day. So I don't know all this crazy stuff. The sentencing of criminals in front of letting them off, giving 20 years probably means lucky if he gets 5. Interesting. So that's a take from Dan. Okay. Interesting. Where's Q at? Where's Q at? Is Q in here today? Q, what's your take on that Diddy stuff? Where's she at? Is she in here? She works. She's like scrambling for her phone. Fuck. I want to know how many years she thinks Diddy's going to get. So Q is she's paralegal. So I'm kind of curious on what she says Diddy's going to get here. By the way, you guys, you don't have to do 99 cents. I mean, hell, if you want to do $50 a month, I'll take your money. Look, I'm cheap. I don't spend a lot of money, but I will take a lot of money. That's for damn sure. Please don't feel like you're limited here. I added a lot of tiers. If you want to bump up, we have a higher tier, $9.99 a month. I will do that. I will not shy away from taking your money. Let me tell you, I got no problems with that. Y'all have a great day and I love you. Stay safe. Appreciate that, Mel. Thank you. I always get this comment. My Kilwin Etsy. You're Ben. I don't know who this is. Hold on 1 second. Let me go to my content. What did you say? Haha, I'll take your money. Absolutely. Look, I always ask for donations. I got no qualms with taking people's cashola. Oh, it said MAGA. Okay. I appreciate you, Sea-Dog. Thank you so much for the kind stuff, you guys. Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate that. All right, we'll end it there. Remember, there's no show Friday. I'll probably have a show, but like a premiere. I'm going to do a thing in the morning, so I won't be here. Dark MAGA Thursday tomorrow. That's limited. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. That's it. All right. Well, I love you guys. It's good hanging out with you. See you tomorrow morning. Bye.